Hey, howdy, hey, welcome back to another episode of Avilla Theory. We're starting a new series on real estate. We have some fun stories and experiences to tell you and some fun information to share about things we have learned embarking on a few different real estate transactions. And so that's what we're talking about today. I am CJ Avilla, and I'm joined by my very special wife, Nicole.
Special?
Yes.
Oh, I'm Nicole Avilla, in case you were wondering.
Yeah, and Nicole is actually, she passed her real estate licensing exam, was that a year ago? Right about a year ago?
Maybe 2 years ago.
2 years ago?
Yeah,
okay.
Time has really gone by.
So we geek out about real estate pretty hard.
We've been a part of a surprising amount of transactions for our age, I feel like.
Yeah, so we have owned a condo, we have owned a long-term investment rental properties, we have owned now short-term investment properties, we have primary residence, and even after buying, we have also rented. And so we wanted to start the series out talking about all the benefits to renting. Okay, so just start with just what are all of the reasons why renting is actually way better than buying any sort of real estate?
Okay.
Yeah. So
tell me.
Yeah, the first that come to mind, the first couple of reasons that come to mind. Mm-hmm. One big one is mobility. So if you are in a job where if you get promoted, you might have to move to a different city, or if you are, young and you're not really sure where you want to settle down, or if you don't have roots somewhere, buying a house is a little bit more difficult to make that move, because it's possible that after you buy, the market goes down a little bit, and so you don't want to have to short sell or sell your house for less than what you bought it for. So that prevents you from moving. Also, when you're renting, there is these definite terms. So for a fact, at the end of this 6 months, maybe I'm going month to month with my landlord and I can leave. Mm-hmm. That flexibility in your location can be really, really beneficial. Mm-hmm. Other huge benefits to renting is if your toilet breaks, or if there is, if your kitchen floods.
That's what I miss.
Right?
You just call somebody.
Yeah, you just call the landlord and they have to send someone out to fix it. The heater goes off or something. When you are the homeowner, that's all up to you. And you're
expensive.
Yeah, it is very expensive.
Oh my goodness.
There are a lot of costs that you don't see when you're looking at the price of a house, right? When you see the sticker value or the sticker price of $100K, there is the mortgage that you're going to have to, or if you don't have the cash, if you don't have $100K cash to just buy the whole thing, then what you might do is borrow money from the bank to buy the house. And borrowing the money costs a lot of money in interest to borrow a huge chunk like that. But on top of the mortgage, there is insurance. You have home insurance. You have, you also have all the maintenance. You have to pay all the utilities that are sometimes wrapped up in rent. So if you're renting, then maybe the sewer is included, or the water is included, or maybe electric, or sometimes the power. It's very common in Reno or in Northern Nevada for many of these utilities to be not included in the rent price, and you still have to pay for the utilities. But if you're in a situation where your rent includes all the utilities, sometimes maybe it'll be even include internet, right? Yeah. When you own the home, none of those things are included. Another big one is homeowners association fees.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Yeah, so this is more common if you live in a condo or in more established neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. Gated communities, or if you live in high rise, or if you live in, some sort of apartment or something, there are often homeowner association fees that pay for things like repaving the blacktop and repainting all the buildings and keeping the pool up to snuff, and
snow removal.
Yep, snow removal, and sometimes lawn care.
Yep.
Can you think of any other?
Oh, gosh, Christopher, now I'm wondering why
do
we own a house? It sounds awful.
I know. There's so many benefits to renting.
I think you did a great job.
Another huge benefit to renting is it makes it possible for you to live to put a roof over your head when you might not have the cash to buy a house, right? Like, not everyone is in the financial situation where they can afford a down payment and afford, the mortgage. So there are a lot of expenses that go into owning a house. And so we wanted to just say, like, up front that renting is a totally good option.
Yes.
It's a great option. And many personal finance people right now are pushing renting versus buying. Because,
Interesting.
Yeah, because it is so expensive.
Yeah.
But in our experience, owning real estate has been like the single biggest driver to increasing our net worth.
I want to ask you, because you're the one that started this whole, we need to buy houses to invest. And it was when we were dating. So we were like
19.
Yeah. And you wanted to buy, you're like, I don't want to pay somebody else. I want to own my own place. Do you know what started that?
I don't know for sure, but I knew I saw the success that my folks had with real estate.
Yeah.
And I felt like if I was paying somebody monthly rent and none of that was going towards building any value for myself, then I was kind of like losing out on some cash or something.
Yeah.
But I totally granted that when I was 19, I was not aware.
Right.
I was not fully aware of all the expenses and process, but
so we've definitely driven that point home.
Yeah. One other like huge unfair advantage that I think that I had was that my dad taught me a ton about taking care of a house and like doing maintenance myself. So we've been able to do a lot of things ourselves.
So why should I buy a house?
Here, so in my experience, it has been the biggest driver in increasing our net worth. Yeah. So
it's a good investment.
Yeah. I think your primary home is less of an investment per se, but it is also a way to sort of like build equity in an asset. Yeah. So it might not be the same. In fact, it might not grow as fast as if you were to just invest in the stock market or something, but, it's real. It's something. And,
you don't have to worry about anybody kicking you out.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to get kicked out.
I worry about that. Someday we may be renting again, and I worry like, oh, we're going to get settled into a place, and the kids are going to be in school, and then maybe the owner decides they want to sell.
Yep.
And then you're out of a place. Got to find somewhere else to go. So
you
have a little bit more control if you are the owner. Any other great reasons we should recommend buying a house?
So there's like this American dream, right? Where you buy a house and then you gain some equity in the house and then you sell it and you move into a bigger house. And then, so maybe you buy like a really tiny little studio and you're single, and then you get married and you buy like a 2-bedroom, and then you have a baby, and then you need a little bit more space and you buy a bigger house and you buy a bigger house. And then when the kids are all grown and gone, then you're sitting on a 5-bedroom house that you have, tons of equity in, and you can sell that and you can kind of like live off the value. That is sort of interesting. Like it's like part of the American dream. So that's really attractive to me. So
what we want to focus on in this episode is just talking about what that process looks like, buying a house. If you've never done it before, you're going to be a first-time home buyer. We just want to share some things to think about, trying to think about whether or not you're ready to buy a house and how to get the process started.
Yeah.
So
we talked about should you buy.
I think that we should share the story about the first time we bought a house.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
This was before we were married. So actually Christopher was buying the house, but I was there for support.
Yes.
And, like we said before, he had that frame of mind where he was like, I'm not paying somebody else rent. I want to buy my own. So we were living in these condos, and they happened to be building new ones. So we just walked over and, I don't know, placed an offer or something. We're just like...
Basically, yeah. There is usually, if there's some sort of new construction going on, which is really common in Nevada, or at least it's been really common in the last like 10 years. There's always been kind of like these new developments going up with condos or tract homes or whatever.
Okay, side note, if you are already a little bit further in this process and you have an agent, please do not walk into a new development without your agent.
Yeah.
Because they will not let you use that agent anymore.
Yep.
Once you've stepped onto their property, you are theirs.
There's so many weird rules about going into the builder's office. But
we did not have an agent, so we walked
didn't
right
have
in.
an agent. We walked into the builder's office, and then the agent that's sitting at the desk at the builder's office becomes your new agent.
Yep.
They're your new homie. Mm-hmm. And so we went over there, and we're just like, yeah, can you show us some of these houses? And so we looked around and found one that we loved, and
we picked it, went through the process.
Yeah. Like an hour later, we just like,
and what year was
let's sign the papers.
Do you remember? It's like 2009, 2008.
I think
maybe?
it was like right before the market was crashing, or like right when the market was like in free fall. The housing market was in free fall in 2008, and so there were all these houses that probably would have sold previously for like $300,000 in Reno, and they were all going for 180, 170, 160, and just like kept going down and down and down. Mm-hmm. And so we found an awesome, was that a 3-bedroom?
It was a 3-bedroom.
Like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-story. It was technically a condo. I think it shared one wall with, maybe it was like a townhouse or something. Mm-hmm. And so it was super
next to the university. Yep. We were still in school then. So
we were still going to college.
We loved it.
Yeah. And so we went through the entire process.
Almost the entire process. So we signed all of the paperwork. We had, it was, when you buy a new house, when you buy like a new build, there are no appliances or anything. So we had, we went to Home Depot and we bought refrigerator, washer, dryer, and we had appliances. We had a closing date, so we asked for them to be delivered after that closing date.
Yep.
And then what happened?
Yeah, so I forget the exact timeline, but we had a closing date. And so what we arranged was to move out of our rented apartment and into this new house like a week after the closing date or something. Mm-hmm. And it turned out that in fact, to move out of our apartment, we had to find another renter to move in to take over our lease. We were breaking our lease. And so in order to do that, we had to do the legwork to find a renter to replace us. Mm-hmm. And so we had found a renter to replace us. They were also going to move in like a week after that or something. Mm-hmm. And so, we had the closing date. It came and went. And we were like, hey, can we negotiated with the builder, who was like the previous owner, basically. And we said, can we have our appliances delivered to the house? Because we don't want them to be delivered here and then have to figure out how to get them over there. Mm-hmm. And so we had the appliances delivered. Mm-hmm. And then the closing date came and went, and the packet didn't actually close.
Right.
And so what happened was...
they weren't telling us anything at first.
Yeah, the builder wasn't telling us anything. And it was kind of crazy because what happened was there was some sort of litigation where the one of the subcontractors for the builder okay, this is what happened. As the market was crashing in 2008, there were some banks that went belly up. Mm. And when the banks went belly up, they all of their accounts or whatever got transferred to bigger banks or bought by bigger banks. And so what happened was the builder was using one of the banks that went under. Oh. And so when their account got transferred to the new bank, all of the subcontractors had an opportunity to renegotiate their contracts. Mm-hmm. And before the market crashed, the way the contracts worked was that the builder would write a contract for an entire cul-de-sac or something, many, many units. And let's say it was the framer, and he was going to pay the framer $200,000. Well, the way that he would do it before is he would pay them he would pay them for each unit that they completed in bits.
Yeah.
And now the framer wanted all the money up front, and the builder didn't have the cash anymore. And so there ended up being this crazy lien on the entire development. Mm-hmm. And they ended up not being able to close with us because there was this lien on the property. But before that happened, we moved into the house.
I don't know who let us do this because it was not a good idea on their side.
It was,
But they gave us the keys to the place, and we completely moved in, even though we did not own the place.
We didn't own it yet. But they were like, it's totally going to close. It's going to close in a week. It's going to close in a few days. We just haven't heard back from so-and-so. It's going to close. Like, we know it's going to close. And we were like, we don't have an apartment anymore. We already like rented it out. Someone else is moving in there. We have no place to go. Can we just move in? And they were like...
So we moved in, and then
sure.
they finally told us, oh, just kidding, we cannot sell you this house because there's this lien on it. You must move out and find...
Yeah, they were like...
I guess they didn't say move out. They said you just have to buy something else.
You have to find something else. You can't... you cannot buy this.
We were engaged at that point, and we were prepping for a wedding, and so it was just all very stressful. And somehow the builder, right, gave us permission.
Yeah.
The builder was like, I'm so sorry. You can live here.
Yeah, you can live here until you find another house.
Which ended up being like
7 months.
6 or 7 months.
Yeah.
We lived there rent free with all of our stuff while we tried to find another house. And we eventually did find another house. Yeah. But how crazy.
I know.
And like how fortunate as well, because we saved so much money.
Yeah.
Not having to pay anything.
And also that I felt so bad for the real estate agents because we probably looked at over 100 places after that.
Was gone. So all of the houses around Reno, they were all short sales. Everywhere we looked, short sale. And
foreclosures. And
oh my gosh, we did look at every single house in Reno. But anyway, it ended up working out. The house we ended up buying was amazing. And we loved it. And
the moral of the story here is do not move in to a house until
you own it.
You own it for sure. Like until the packet is closed 100%.
You have your closing packet in hand and your key.
Not just that you have the key and the old owner said you can move in, but like actually have be closed. Instead of like looking back, we probably should have like stayed in a hotel or found like somewhere else to live temporarily until we knew that it closed.
Why?
Actually, I don't know.
Then we would have had to pay for all
We did end
up
getting... Yeah, I don't know. It worked out. It totally worked out.
It was just a fluke.
Another thing that we learned in that process, after we looked for like hundreds of houses after that, was to manage our expectations. Because I think after that fell through, that was like a really, really awesome, beautiful house, beautiful 3-bedroom, new build. And so after that, our expectations were really, really high. They were like, oh, now that this didn't work out, we're going to go higher. Now we need
our forever home.
Yeah,
we need to find the house we're going to raise our children in.
Exactly.
No, that's not how this started.
Yeah. You do not, like the first home that you buy is never going to be your forever home.
I can't tell you how many times I have heard that.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, well, we're just moving into the area. We want to find the house that we're going to live in forever. I mean, no.
It doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't. I mean, your family probably grows and changes, and you have no idea what's going to happen in the next 5 years even.
Yeah.
So I think that it's fine to find something that fits for right now.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, crazy story, but... With that and our future purchases, we've kind of learned a lot about buying a house. Yeah. So I want to ask you, Christopher.
Okay.
Is now a good time to buy?
That's a good question. Like the market is kind of crazy. The prices are really high right now.
Really high.
Really high.
2 years ago, the median price?
Yeah, the median home price in Reno.
Yeah, in Reno was $300,000. Now, what is it?
Now it's $372,000 or something. Yeah.
It's crazy.
That is a significant hike. Mm-hmm. So the prices are high. That said, interest rates are super low. Interest rates are super, super low. So that is an attractive thing.
I think that's one of the things that scares me. And maybe it's just where we're living, because a lot of companies are starting to invest in
Northern Nevada.
Yeah. And so that is causing our area to grow really fast. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I kind of feel like maybe the market is not that unstable and it's just our little area, but the price is being driven up so high, so fast that I'm worried that it's going to crash.
It's pretty volatile.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another thing to think about when you're looking at timing, like there's really no way to time the market, right? Like it's the same thing as like trying to time a stock market or something, but there's definitely seasons where prices fluctuate. So the seasons that we have observed here in northern Nevada and in Lake Tahoe are that prices generally start to swell in the spring and peak late spring, early summer. Mm-hmm. They kind of flatline throughout the summer, and then at the end of summer they start to kind of like dip a little bit, and then around like Christmas Day is like the prices are generally like the lowest, right? It's snowy.
Exactly.
There's like the builders are not building.
People don't want to move in the middle of a school year.
Yeah.
So they're waiting for that peak season. So that's definitely, I mean, it's tough. If you're a buyer, you would think, okay, well, I'll buy in the off season. However, people might not be listing their houses in the off season. They might be waiting until the summertime. Yeah. So you just, I don't know, you gotta just keep your eye on it, I guess, and be open and willing to buy whenever you find the one that's right for you.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about interest rates too, because when you look at the interest rate and you see a 5% interest rate or a 4% interest rate on your on the mortgage, those seem like really small numbers. Like, right. 4%, that's so small. 3%, 5%, those are all like really small.
There's really a big difference between 3.25 and 4.75.
Exactly, yeah. And so there's a number of different things that factor into the interest rate that you're able to get from the lender. One of the big ones is your credit score. So if you have a higher credit score, you can get a lower interest rate, and that's because the bank trusts you more, basically, if you have a higher credit score. But if you look at the real numbers, so if you take a $300,000 mortgage, and let's say you're going to get a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, that means that the interest rate that you get in the very beginning is the same for all 30 years. This is the most like common, I would say, way to do it now. Mm-hmm. There's also like a like variable rate or adjustable rate mortgages, which are different in that you start with one rate and then it can change to a different rate, and the bank just like tells you like, oh, after 5 years now the rate is 12% or something. Yeah. So a lot of people end up going with the 30-year fixed. If you start a $300,000 mortgage with a 30-year fixed at 4%, then the total interest that you'll pay over the entire life of the loan, if you just like keep making your normal monthly payments, is $215,000 total in just interest. That's the money that you're paying to the bank to borrow money.
That's a lot of money.
That's a ton of money but that's based on 4%.
Okay.
Now, if we look at 5%, which is just one little percent more,
right,
you're looking at $280,000.
Yeah.
So $280,000, $65K more over the life of the loan just for that 1% interest.
You could buy a car with that.
Yeah, exactly. And what's crazy is that, so that's whatever. That's interest rates. Interest rates are low right now, so that might be a reason why it's a good time to buy.
Okay. So how do I know if I'm ready to buy a house? What should I be prepared for?
So a couple things.
Okay.
One, you want to look at your credit score. If you don't know what your credit score is, there's a bunch of different free ways to find your credit score, and we'll link to some of those in the show notes.
Totally.
One that we use is Mint. If you set up Mint, you can get a monthly refresh on your credit score, which is really handy. And your credit score is essentially a metric that is used to measure your credit worthiness. That's like how likely you are to pay back the money that you borrow. And there is a bunch of different factors that go into your credit score. And I had them.
The one that I think is most interesting that I think sometimes you forget because you're younger and you're like, oh, I have great credit. I haven't done anything. But actually the amount of time that you've had credit, as in a credit card or some sort of loan, is factored into your credit score. Yeah. So I remember poor CJ had what was considered a lower credit score only because he had not opened up a credit card when he was younger. And so he didn't have as many years as I did. Mm-hmm. So that is something to think about. I mean, when you're 18, just opening up something.
Yeah.
So that you can start establishing your good credit.
Exactly. So here are a couple of things that go into it. So there are if you log into Mint, which I just did, I'm sure you heard me typing there. The factors that go into your credit score is your on-time payments. What percentage of your payments on debt are on time? So you have your monthly credit card payment. You also have like phone bills and car loans and mortgage payments. And there are a bunch of different ways that you can be lent money or be expected to pay. And these organizations have a way to report your ability to pay on time or that you have paid on time back to the credit bureaus who track this. And so one of the highest impact metrics that goes into your credit score is like how many of your on-time payments, what percentage of your payments have been on time. So are you 30 days late, 60 days late, 90 days late? You want 100% of your payments to be on time. You never want to be late on any payments ever. Never, ever, ever be late on a credit card payment or loan payment or mortgage payment or whatever. That really impacts your credit score. Another one is credit usage. So how much of your credit are you utilizing? So if you have a $10,000 limit on your credit card, if you just went out and bought a TV and it was $10,000, maybe you got one of those 8K, super nice 8K TVs, and you use all 10,000, then you have used 100% of your credit, right? And you have maxed out your credit card. That is really bad because it shows that you're relying on all of the debt that you already have access to. And so you want this number to be under 10%. So if your credit card is a $10,000 limit, you want to spend or go up to like a max of like $1,000 and always pay off every single month. This is in an ideal world.
This is looked at after you've made your payment for the month.
It's looked at when the credit is pulled.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I pay off my credit cards every month.
Yeah.
So there's never a balance, but throughout the month there might be a balance.
Yeah.
Like if they happen to pull my credit the day after I bought that $10,000 TV, even though I was going to pay it off at the end of the month, that will look poorly. This
is wading into territory where I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty confident that it is based on that day.
Okay.
Like how much.
Yeah.
So one interesting tactic that you can take here is that if you have existing credit cards and you're really good about paying them on time, and you can call your credit card company and request a credit limit increase, because if you move from having a $10,000 limit to having a $20,000 limit, then you can spend a little bit more each month to reach that 10% threshold or whatever and be fine. So, it's possible through a number of different cards to get easily $100,000.
Yeah. And I would also say be careful.
Yeah. No. This is definitely, if you are not good with credit, if you are maxing out your credit cards.
If it's easy for you to say, oh, I have a little extra on my credit card, let me just go ahead and spend a little bit more, then
this is not
don't do this. Don't do this.
Do not do that. The next big one is the age of your credit. And you were talking about this a little bit before, but you want the average age of your credit, of each of your credit cards or credit lines, to be 6 years or older. So if you opened a card 5 years ago and you opened a card 1 year ago, then the average age of those two cards is 3 years old, right? And so if you even if you have like two cards that are 10 years old, if you just opened up an RC Willey and a Home Depot and a Best Buy,
so definitely keep that in mind.
And Taylor Loft, and
when you're when you're opening up something new, like how much is this going to impact what I've already tried to establish?
Yeah. And another one is the credit inquiries and derogatory marks. So if you get sent to collections, then there's a blemish that is added to your credit history. That's not good. You don't want that. So you want 0 derogatory marks. And credit inquiries can be bad, but this is kind of a gray area. Your credit inquiries, there's like soft and hard inquiries. Basically, every time you apply for credit or you apply for a car loan or a mortgage or whatever, then they pull your credit, and that counts as an inquiry. So these can actually benefit you if you are looking for a home. One of the reasons is that that we're going to get into later is that when you are looking at picking a lender, the lender is going to pull your credit. And so if you have recently had your credit pulled by a different lender, then that will reflect that you are kind of shopping around for lenders. So,
okay. So first things first, I'm thinking about buying a house. Let's work on my credit score.
Yep. Work on your credit score. Definitely.
Okay. And then what else?
The next thing is you want to make sure you have enough money saved for a down payment.
Okay.
The down payment is interesting because there is going to be a minimum down payment depending on the type of loan you get. So we'll talk about these again later, but you can have like a VA loan or FHA loan or conventional, or it could be for a second home or for an investment property. All these different types of loans that you get are going to have different minimum requirements for how much money you have to put down. Mm-hmm. So for the smallest percent down type of loans, mm-hmm. if you don't put down more than 20%, then you have to pay this thing that's called PMI. Mm-hmm. It's like the property mortgage insurance mm-hmm. or something like that. Yeah. And the PMI is this monthly fee that you're paying to ensure that the mortgage is going to get paid. It's it is annoying because it's essentially just extra money that you have to pay to insure.
And I think it's important to remember the more money you put down, the less your monthly mortgage is going to be. So ideally, you don't want to take a loan if you could.
Yeah, if you can pay cash, that'd be great.
That's just something to factor into whether or not you should continue to rent. Could you keep stashing away money so that you can put down more for your house? Because that will just save you money in the long run. You won't have as much interest, and your monthly payment will be less. So that's what we would highly suggest.
Yeah, we would recommend.
However, that doesn't always happen.
Yeah. So the ideal scenario is that you have at least 20% to put down.
Which is a lot. If you're buying a house for $300,000.
$60K.
That's a lot of money.
A lot of money to save up. And so, that's it. That's PMI, that's the down payment. It's always a lot, but this kind of goes into the next topic here around how much house you can afford versus how much you need.
Yeah. So you've decided okay, I'm going to go ahead and start looking around. Maybe you're poking around online, mm-hmm. or you see the house in a neighborhood that you've loved is for sale. How do you then decide okay, well, how big of a house do I need and how much can I afford?
Right. So if you, this is when you can start talking to a lender. And one of the roles of the lender is to look at all of your current finances. So they're going to look at how much money you make, how much money you spend, how much cash you have, how many investments you have. Is your car paid off? Do you have a car payment? They're going to want to see your W-2s, your pay stubs, try to see how consistent your monthly income is. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to talk to a lender who's a person that's specialized at looking at all of your finances, and they're going to tell you this is how much money you can afford, which is always more than you should ever spend.
That's true.
They're going to tell you you can afford, let's say they're going to tell you can afford up to $420,000.
Yeah.
You do not want to buy a house for $420,000 because that is going to be a stretch. That is too much money.
Your monthly payments are going to be high.
It's even okay. So the one of the rules that they try to shoot for is having it be 1/3 of your monthly income. Right? It's roughly that's what it is. It's a third of your monthly income. Mm-hmm. So if you take your monthly income, let's say you make, to make it easy, $9,000 a month. Mm-hmm. Then you can afford up to $3,000 a month in mortgage, principal, insurance, taxes, HOA fees and all that. They will figure all of that out and say, okay, you can afford up to $3,000 for this. But that's so much more mm-hmm. than you should ever spend. It's insane because I think they're trying to help you be more conservative and more responsible with making the decision, but I would say that 1/3 is probably way too much. I would say maybe shoot for 1/4.
Okay.
In my experience.
Yeah.
Other things that you can think about when talking to a lender is that a big chunk of the upfront cost of buying a house is in the closing costs.
Bless you.
Yeah, excuse me. And the closing costs are generally negotiable with the lender and with the...
Another thing to keep in mind, I would ask around people who have recently purchased homes, or if you have an agent already, get their recommendations. You can totally shop around for a lender.
Yeah.
Which I feel like I'm not allowed to say because I'm the daughter of a lender, but I've heard him say it before.
Yeah.
You can totally, you got to find what works best for you.
Totally. Yeah, so there are, if you are a veteran, you have access to something called a VA loan, which is a special like type of loan that automatically removes PMI, and you have to put like less down. So definitely go check out a VA loan if you are a veteran. That's going to be better than any of the other options, in my opinion. There's also FHA and conventional. I don't actually know all the details of the differences of these, but these are the kinds of things that you want to talk to your lender about and ask for recommendations and information and do your research about the different types of loans.
Yeah, and your lender should be able to explain all of that to you. That's why you want to be able to find someone that you're comfortable talking to and you feel like is giving you the time of day that you need for all of your questions.
Yeah. And so after you've talked to the lender, they're going to generally say like, okay, this is how much you can afford, like let's say $420K. And then the next step that you're going to take is you're going to meet with your, or like try to find a real estate agent.
Yes.
And now you probably know a real estate agent or two or seven. There are many, many real estate agents.
Yeah.
If you're in Northern Nevada, in the Northern Nevada area, and you want to get connected with a real estate agent, let us know. We have lots of friends. Mm-hmm. This is another person that you can sort of shop around.
Yes.
The agent, when an agent engages with you, they are going to have you sign a document that says if you buy a house in the next X number of days, then you agree to use that agent for the sale. Mm-hmm. And they're going to try to do this in the first conversation that you have with them.
Depends on the agent.
Depends on the agent. Totally depends on the agent. But
generally,
like, the best practice on the agent side is to make sure that like the work that they're doing is driving around and meeting you and showing different properties to you and setting up appointments and advocating for you, understanding all the different laws and rules so that you don't have to know all those things. They also have access to the MLS or the multiple listing service, which is like a website they can look on that has the statuses of different homes. And so because they are doing this work for you, they don't actually get paid until the house closes. Mm-hmm. So if you were to just go and use one agent to talk about one house and another agent to talk about another house, then they don't want to put in that work unless they kind of have some sort of contractual agreement that you're going to go through the whole process with them. So before you sign that document, it's totally cool, I would say, to meet with a couple agents and see which one you groove with the most and see which one feels like they get you and that they understand kind of what you're looking for and that they're going to find.
You can meet them at their office. You can go for coffee, whatever.
Starbucks or whatever. Yeah, it's totally cool.
Totally fine.
When I work from Starbucks, I see people meeting agents like all the time.
Yeah. Which is good. So once you've established that relationship and you've signed that piece of paper, they are going to be the ones who are able to answer all of your questions. That's what they're there for. Yeah. And they will be there to show you all the different things that are available right now. Yeah.
One thing that you can do is look on Zillow or look on Redfin or Trulia or any of these real estate sites and kind of get a rough idea of what the market is like and a really, really rough idea of what's out there. These sites are often well behind. Like they are not synced completely up with the up-to-date status of a certain transaction. So if you look on Zillow and you see that a house is for sale, it's not necessarily still for sale. It could be pending contract already, or it could already be, recently closed and they just haven't updated Zillow. So Zillow and Redfin and all these free online consumer resources are great. They're actually like lead generators for real estate agents. So when you go on there, that's one way that you can connect with real estate agents. But what I would say is that you want to try to create some parameters for the house that you're looking for. So how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, what are your non-negotiables, like do you have to have a game room, and you have to have a basement, and you have to have, you know, a garage and whatever. You give those constraints to the real estate agent, and they can plug that into the multiple listing service and set you up for automated emails, so you can email every single day or week or whatever with
whatever you want.
The list of
you
houses.
You could do it immediately
Yeah.
as soon as something's posted within your
Exactly.
parameters. And be willing to listen to the feedback of the agent, because perhaps you have like 10 non-negotiables, but you have a budget that does not allow for all 10 of those. Right. Be willing to maybe take some of those off, or understand that it might just not be possible.
Yeah. Or maybe it's not possible in the area that you're looking in, so...
Maybe you need a different area. Maybe you just need to wait a little bit longer.
Yep.
Until you can put down more of a down payment so that you can buy something that's a little bit more. There are a lot of different ways to get you into the house that you want to be in.
Yep.
Yeah. Sometimes we all just get focused in on having that perfect first house. It's got all the things that we need, but
yeah,
that might not happen.
No. I think real estate is super fun.
It is.
Like, just I don't know, it's kind of like Monopoly a little bit. Like,
oh my gosh.
Like looking around.
Nobody ever plays Monopoly with CJ anymore because he wins all of these. Actually, no, that's not true. Logan can beat you.
Logan won last time. Was he 4
times.
at that point? I think he was like 4 years old and he beat us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we really, really like this. Another thing came to mind in terms of a down payment, and that is there are certain retirement accounts that have special exceptions if you're using it for purchasing a primary residence. So if you have, you'll have to look up all the details and do the research yourself. Obviously, we're not like financial advisors, but I know that there are retirement accounts. I want to say like you could take your 401k or your IRA and do a one-time withdraw to use as a down payment on a house. There's a bunch of other like really advanced things that we have done. So we have experienced a couple of different things that we've experienced. One is a 1031 exchange. A 1031 exchange is when you are selling one property and buying another one, and you want to move the money from the property that you sold into the property that you're buying so that you can decrease your tax liability. So if you have an investment property and you're going to sell it and make $100K, you're going to get taxed on that $100K as if it was income. Or maybe it's like you get taxed as if it's like a capital gains tax or something. But if you take the money and you put it directly into another house with this thing that's called a 1031 exchange, it's like a special kind of account that you work through, then you remove a lot of that tax liability. So that's something that we've done in the past. That's really interesting. Another interesting thing that you can do if you're feeling really, really confident is you can do a deal without a real estate agent. I would say if it's your first home, if this is your first purchase, work with a real estate agent. They're going to know all the rules and they're going to protect you.
You're not paying for that.
Right. As a buyer, you're not paying for the real estate agent.
Yeah.
But if you want...
you may as well use one.
You may as well use one as the buyer.
Yeah.
As the seller or as a buyer who wants to get a discount and like have the seller also get a discount.
True.
One thing you can do is sort of like a, backyard handshake deal, which we've done in the past, where you just meet the buyer directly, or the buyer and the seller meet directly, and you don't work with a real estate agent, and instead you just go directly to title company, and the title company can write up the papers, and if you want, you can spend. So generally, the cost for the real estate agent is around 6%. Right, of the sale price of the house. So if you're selling a $300,000 house, what is that? Oh yeah, people probably on the line are already like, oh yeah, 18. But 18,000, right? $18,000 is quite a bit. So instead of paying $18,000 when you are selling a $300,000 house, what you could do is, if you do this handshake backyard deal, is you can save the 18 grand and instead spend $1,000 for a real estate lawyer to look over the paperwork that you've done, the paperwork that you've drawn up. A lot of times you're going to have agreements, or sort of like, what is it called when you have like things that you want the person to fix? I
wanted to say amendment.
No, it's like, oh man, how's that term escaping us? So when you're buying a house, you always have a home inspection done, and at the end of the home inspection, the inspector is going to tell you there's a broken roof tile and the water heater hasn't been changed for 15 years, and you're probably going to have to get the mold taken care of in this bathroom and whatever. And so what you can do is you can put in certain requirements that the seller is going to fix certain things, or you can put in a requirement that the seller is going to just give you money instead. So they'll give you like $500, or you're going to have them fix certain things. It's like a fix-it list or something. I forget what the name of it is. Oh my gosh. But, so that is a little bit of our experience and some information that we would like to share if you are considering buying a house. You got any Disney trivia for us today?
I seem to remember last time he said, I have Disney trivia for you, but I'm going to tell you next time.
I know. I had such a good one.
You have not told me
I forget
anything.
what it was. Oh, man.
Phew. Good job, Christopher. That was a lot. Sounds like you've still got a cold, too.
I know. I do have a cold.
But you rocked it.
I really like real estate.
I know you do.
It's fun. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
You guys can always ask us any questions.
Yeah, we're totally down to geek out. I just made a crazy amortization schedule.
Oh, babe.
Yeah.
I think you were trying to talk about the NORR.
Oh,
the Notice of Required Repairs.
That's such a weird name for it. It's like it's basically like a fixed list.
It is.
NORR is an odd name for it. NORR, but that's the name.
Totally is.
The Notice of Required Repairs. That's like the fix-it list. Okay.
Yeah.
So I promised a Disney trivia question.
You did.
During maybe the first episode, second or third episode. You'll have to go back and listen and figure out which one. So Nicole had some good Disney trivia for me, and I thought it would be especially appropriate to ask a Disney trivia question related to real estate.
What?
Yeah, I know. Isn't that cool? Okay. So,
hit me.
Okay. In Disney Pixar's Frozen.
Yeah.
The castle, the ice castle that Elsa makes.
Yes.
Changes colors based on her mood. The question is, what mood does she have when the color of the castle is red?
What?
Come on.
This is just my guess.
Okay.
I don't recall seeing it red.
Oh.
Is it red in the movie?
It's red in the movie.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
Okay. Fear.
Whoa! Very good.
Yes?
Yeah.
Oh.
What other colors does it change?
I didn't even know it turned colors, to tell you the truth. I thought it was just like a blue.
Yeah, so blue is when she's happy.
Oh.
Red is when she's afraid.
Okay.
And yellow is when she's angry. I know. Isn't that weird? Because yellow is like a friendship color.
Yeah, it's all bright and happy.
I know. But blue apparently is...
That's her happy place. Good job.
When she's happy.
That was a good one.
Wasn't that tricky?
That was very tricky.
Who knew that? They even changed colors.
Yeah, now I'm going to be singing that.
I know.
I told the kids the joke the other day. You know how you listen to a song and you think it's one set of words, but it's actually something completely different? Mm-hmm. And there's a song, I can't remember, Grayson thinks that they say Grayson. I was like, oh, Grayson, did you know? And Let It Go. It sounds to me like she's saying, Nicole never bothered me anyway. She actually says, the cold never bothered me. But every time I hear it, I'm like, what? Who's calling me?
Yeah.
Oh, it's just Elsa.
But the good thing is you don't bother her, because she might send an ice monster after you.
Yeah. Let it go. All right, friends. Thanks for listening.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the 5-star reviews. We really appreciate them.
So awesome.
We hope that we can get a few more if you haven't had a chance to click those stars yet.
Yeah. If you know someone who is about to buy a home or is thinking about buying a home, hey, maybe you could point them to this episode. Maybe they'll become a subscriber. I don't know.
We hope so.
We hope so. Yeah. Our last episode was about Disneyland. Our next episode, probably another real estate series. Mm-hmm. If you have topics that you would like to hear about, or you just want to hear our thoughts on something, let us know.
We did have a request for talking about exercise.
I know.
Maybe we'll add that in.
Yeah, do as I say, not as I do.
But we've gotten some other great suggestions as well. So.
We have, yeah.
We appreciate them.
We appreciate them. We appreciate you. We really like doing this. I think it's a kind of a fun thing for us to do together. So, love yourself. Spread love around. Peace.